Yay. Is the video tech here? Is the TA here?
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Leslie. I am having trouble with my video all day. Hello and welcome. I hope you are all enjoying our first inaugural symposium and becoming better acquainted with the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, as you attend all the various presentations. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kim Gates Flick, and I am an independent artist and faculty member of the Penn State School of Visual Arts. And I am one of the community collaborators with the S3A and a faculty affiliate with the Sustainability Institute. So the United Nations agreed to these goals. If you haven't heard about them yet, I'm sure you have, but they agreed to these goals in September of 2015. And since then, universities all over the world have been answering the call to action. We feel universities are in a unique position to assist in implementing these goals, and they are essential for providing knowledge, innovation, and solutions to underpin implementation. They are also essential to creating current and future advocates, and we provide cross-cultural leadership in local, national, and global implementations. One such program of implementation was started by a small group of students and faculty with a handful of seeds for change. What began as a small pilot program on a 1-acre plot of land has emerged as a diverse and multidisciplinary space for student engagement, education, and outreach. Leslie Pillen is the Sustainable Food Systems Program Associate Director. I first met Leslie by bringing a group of students out to the farm for direct observation drawing. She was very encouraging to the faculty to think of the student farm as an outdoor extension of the classroom. Ever since, I have been bringing people and students out to the student farm for that experience. We like to look at the farm as an expansion of to explore the interaction of agriculture, science, sustainability, and the visual arts. So today seems like a good day for us to go out there too. So let's get a sneak peek look at the farm in spring before much gets growing. And allow me to personally introduce you to this farm herb responsible for nourishing the Seedly program and engaging thousands of students, community members, and faculty and staff along the way. Not much is going on at the farm, but we still wanted to take a small tour out there for you. I say not much is going on. There's tons going on, but visually, we don't have all the flowers blooming and stuff like that, but everything starts at the soil, right? It starts from the ground up. And it's much like sustainability. So it's a perfect pedagogical platform to get us started. So here's our virtual tour. We'll go on a little virtual tour and then we'll talk to Leslie. Um, Here's she and I looking at what's left of our dye garden because we didn't have one for COVID. So we're looking at what we have coming back and just in general, giving you a little brief tour of what's out there.
Hi, so we're out here at the student farm today, and I'd like to introduce you to the director, Leslie Pillen, and we have a couple-year collaboration going between the student farm and staging all of our dye crops here. They put in our dye crops. So we're having a look to see, what came up last year. But yeah, so welcome to the student farm, everyone. My name is Leslie Pillen, and it is April 12th, I guess, today, so April 13th. What is that? Mid-April. So early spring for us still, and you can see we're here are some of our perennial crops. So some of those are back already for the year, but for the most part, the fields are still in their cover crops from winter, and we will be getting ready to start planting both our veggies and our herbs, but also the dye crops here in the next few weeks as the weather keeps warming up. So, as Kim said, we were just kind of looking to see what came back from the dye crops last year. And over here, it looks like we have some of the Dyer's chamomile that has self-seeded itself and come back really nicely, actually. All this little fringe stuff makes a brilliant yellow, very clear, transparent yellow. We can't wait to use it. Do you use the leaves or the flowers? Both. Oh, nice. So yeah, these fresh leaves are growing. That kind of looks like stock, which is a cut flower, but it may be just kind of brassica that's seeded. What's wonderful about natural dyeing is when you get the volunteer leaves, like goldenrod or anything like that, we can use that too. Yeah, and we just did notice, I think there's a patch of goldenrod that has established itself down here. So that's kind of fun. We can just intentionally let it keep growing, and then you'll have a use for it. I think there's some Rudbeckia around too. Didn't we see a little bit that self-seeded? Yeah. There's one. Yes. This little guy right here. Rudbeckia came back. That's fun. Its common name is brown eye or black-eyed Susan, and it makes a beautiful green in the dyer's spectrum. So yeah, some things have taken care of themselves and come back already, but in addition to what is self-seeding, we have this year's crop growing in the greenhouse right now. So in production, and then once the weather is warm enough for them to do well out here, we'll transplant them out for the summer. A lot of the dye plants will have really nice texture and shape to them, and then ultimately nice flowers. So those are a really nice thing to even think about how we can use them for landscape around the farm. We have a main entryway. The farm expansion is over there behind the high tunnel now, and so making a beautiful entrance for our visitors and our guests is important. So that could be a fun kind of multifunctional use of the dye crops. They're there for the beauty, but then ultimately there for harvesting and for art. I like that too because it gives the students an idea that they can grow these at home too. You don't have to have a big plot of land. You can grow them along your borders, throw them in with your flower border, or even along your household or in a container on your porch. And you can still reap the benefit of harvesting a little because we can't harvest all at once anyway. So it's not big production. It's just slow mindfulness. So I like that. I like it being a little bit part of everybody's visit. Yeah, definitely. Well, for the farm, we grow things in these straight beds because
we're focused on production, and the bulk of what we grow food-wise goes to the dining commons. And so having straight beds and being able to calculate out what kind of production and yield we're going to get, that's important. But for the die crops, to be able to just tuck them in places and demonstrate, like you're saying, Kim, demonstrate to people and show people you don't have to lay out fields and beds to grow die crops. You can just tuck them in spaces that you have open and that you maybe want to beautify.
Leslie and the students were my farm herds. I call them farm herds. HER. And if you want to do a CSA ever with a student farm, they're wonderful. Every week you come and you pick up a share, and it's full of all kinds of great vegetables. And if you're vegetable challenged, like I was a little bit, and that was my New Year's resolution to eat more vegetables, it's a good way to get creative and get those vegetables into your cooking.
Yeah, thanks for the plug, Kim. It is really nice because since it's the student farm CSA, obviously students are growing the vegetables, they're learning how to grow the vegetables as they go, but they are also the ones packing the CSA and distributing it to our customers and doing, communications or identifying recipes to share with our CSA customers. So it's really student-led from start to finish, and it's a wonderful experience for the students in terms of learning. They're learning business skills, communication skills, supply chain management along the way, in addition to
And just that interface with the community. I know my mom is Owen Sadie, and she rode up with me every week. She wanted to come up along with me to pick up my summer CSA, and she loved talking to the students as well, talking to them.
Yeah. Well,
She's
they're so proud.
She's a gardener, so she doesn't do it anymore because we go to her. But
Right.
she always liked hearing what they were doing. And
She's the talk shop
yeah,
with
talk shop with them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess a current update on the Lions Pantry. We are in process of doing a pretty significant renovation in the facility. If you've ever been in there, it kind of was just more of a warehouse type space that got allocated to the pantry to get started. But now that it's becoming more established, we have an opportunity to do some renovation. And with that renovation, we will be including space for some refrigeration and freezer units. So that's really exciting since we've only had shelf stable items to date that we'll be able to add perishables and frozen foods and the like. Hopefully next fall. So the renovations are slated to happen this summer.
It's so amazing to see this pilot program just took off, and it's such a permanent place now. You have a residency, and a residence here now. I'm so excited to have you have that. And likewise, our own course, the Sustainable Studio, was a pilot program, and it just received permanent status with a permanent course in the Silva curriculum this year.
Oh,
So our little pilot program is flourishing too, not as big, right?
That's very exciting.
Yeah, so
Well, and I think, also for all of the, challenges and difficulties that COVID has brought on, one of the positives is that people are paying attention to food again. When you see food shortages in the grocery store, it does make you stop and think, wait, where does food actually come from? Because the grocery store is out. What do I do? And we've seen a really significant uptick in gardening across the country. And I think that's really tremendous because the food is fresher, healthier, you have that pride of growing it yourself. So I think we tend to waste less of it if we put in all the hard work to produce it. And
that shorter transportation rate,
Right.
for gas and all that, if we can cut down the mileage to the table, fuel the table, that'd be great.
yeah, absolutely. And then it's time outdoors, fresh air, exercise, all of those things are so healthy for, any human to be out in nature and enjoying their garden and outdoor space. So I've been really happy to see it. So this is one of our brand new high tunnels as part of our expansion. And there's 3 total with plans for 6 eventually. This tunnel was full of food up until 2 weeks ago when we harvested all of it for Rutherford Dining Commons. Rutherford did a big event for our last wellness day last week and week before, and so all the food went there. So now we have new crop spinach growing in right here. Here you can see the spinach plants. These little babies just came up recently. And then we have a new crop of interns who are growing, shall we say right now, in training. And so just this week they were learning about how to prepare our beds and transplant. So they just transplanted kohlrabi cabbage yesterday.
You always get the best interns too. It's so labor intensive out here, and anytime I've ever been out here, just I say as a collaborator with the course, they've been more than helpful. A lot of this falls on Leslie, but certainly it's student run. And when I'm out here, her students have just the interns have been so great about everything, working with my students with Cycroft and helping them to learn, to actually what the plant life science is with the aesthetics that we're after. So it's been a really great experience.
Okay. So this is what I wanted to show you. This is, maybe I should make this bigger. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I didn't do that earlier. I noticed it, but when it was with the video, I didn't want to mess it up either. I just wanted to include this to show you what the Dye Garden looks like when it's in bloom. It really is a beautiful space, and it's very inviting. You can see from the picnic tables to have an extension of the classroom. But we are just one of many collaborations with the student farm. Leslie will share with us more in-depth look at the farm's operation, and especially with regard to their food programs. But she does so many other things other than food that we like to highlight that too, that she really encourages people to be part of a collaboration. And I'm so thankful that I got to be part of it. Leslie, do you want to take it over?
Sure, I can. So we were originally going to show this, a clip from this video, which was a presentation I gave in late fall for the Alumni Association. But Kim, I'm wondering if in the interest of time, would it be better to just
whatever you want
present live and go through it a little more quickly? I think the video clip is around 25 minutes. So I don't know if that would leave us enough time for Q&A and chatting.
Yes, and the people that we have in the room with us, I think there's more, I don't know, but they would be very interested in speaking with you. So that's probably good.
Okay. Well, I just opened a presentation then, and I can just kind of buzz through that and try to do it in less than 25 minutes to save a little time so we have more time to talk all together at the end. So Kim, thanks for the kind introduction and overview of our collaboration. It is really fun to work together and so fun to build so many different connection points between agriculture and crops, not just with, food per se, but with art and other areas as well. I threw in a quick slide about me, just a little bit about me quickly. I've lived in State College for 10 years. I did my master's here, and then I've been in my role for 7 years. I helped start the student farm in 2016 and really love this area. The agricultural heritage that we have here in this region of central Pennsylvania is really wonderful. And I'm very privileged to get to have my own chickens in my backyard that produce eggs, and my own puppy here who helps with groundhog control. So thanks, Nicole. Yes, he is, he's wonderful, and he keeps the groundhogs away. So bonus on that. So Kim already shared the Sustainable Development Goals, so I won't go into these, but this is an important framework for what the farm does, thinking about how food systems and agriculture connect across many, or I would argue you could find connection points with all of these goals. So this is a key framing in our work and in our education and outreach with students. But then more specifically within the program, we have 3 main goals. education being first and foremost, and you know, hands-on and real-world learning wherever possible, community and helping students serve, educate, and engage with and integrate with the community is another really important goal for the program. And then the third is around access to local foods, so providing more farm to campus. And in our case, you know, we're not only a local farm, but we're a farm run by students. So it's pretty cool to have food grown by students for students in the dining commons. This is an aerial view of the pilot farm, what we've had since 2016 up until this year. So what you see in that aerial is a 1 acre plot with a few main fields where we do crop rotations and cover cropping and such. And then on the left is a map, kind of taking the back road from the creamery and going along the Arboretum. And we're up there. If you're ever going from Toft Trees toward the stadium exit on I-99, then you get a great view of us when you have the village that would be kind of your left up the hill. If you look down the hill, that's us there. And then this is the new master plan for the farm expansion. So if you go by today, you will see this new footprint, which is now 4 acres, and this yellow fence line here. So pretty substantial expansion. You'll also see 3 of the high tunnels. These kind of lighter blue ones are in place. The master plan calls for 3 additional, but as of now, funding enabled 3, but hopefully we'll have the 6 someday soon. And then the other parts that you can't really see, but are really crucial for the farm expansion, is new water lines that are frost-free, so we'll be able to keep water running year-round to serve those high tunnels, and then electricity. We did not have power before, so that's a really helpful addition. We received a donation of 27 solar panels last year. So this phase is still in development, but the goal is that we'll be able to put those solar panels on the roof of this structure and have the farm move toward being off-grid energy-wise as well. So I just have a few slides that kind of give some of our metrics and outcomes from the pilot phase, and some highlights of you know, some of the different collaborations and things that the farm has going on. Lots around education, working with the formal curriculum. We work with different courses each year, Kim's being one of those, and the students in her sustainable studio. But we've actually worked with 10 different colleges over the past 6 years. And I think that's really exciting, and, you know, keeps the farm a dynamic space. People kind of may assume that it's just college of ag students, and certainly a number of classes in the college of ag do participate, but having people come and engage using their own disciplinary perspectives and applying those in the same space altogether, I think is a really fun and exciting aspect to the program. Oh, and I will also mention, I don't know how many folks are based at University Park in this conference versus maybe around Pennsylvania, but we do work with a number of the other Penn State campuses around the Commonwealth, and we received a strategic plan seed grant back in the first round that enabled us to expand gardens and farms at the Beaver campus and the Barron campus. So they have pretty well-established programs now. And then also through that grant, we built more of a kind of community of practice type network. And so we have folks at Brandywine and Abington and Berks and different campuses now that have gardens. They've built out their student food pantries, or they have more food systems curriculum in place. So that's another exciting thing, that it's reaching students all across the Commonwealth and not just here at UP. I kind of highlighted some of this, and oh, there's one of your early flyers, Kim, that made it into the presentation. But yeah, these are just a few examples. This photo over here is a student group who built our original sheds, tool sheds on the farm. So they were freshmen in architecture and got, you know, very hands-on experience in working with us as the client and identifying our needs, and then trying to implement a design that would help serve our needs for storage on the farm. I do also want to highlight the new food systems minor. This is another exciting and new part of curriculum engagement. So this cross-college minor was established in 2020. There's several courses that are part of that minor that are new, in addition to weaving together some existing courses across the campus. And that is also where we're working toward, through that SEED grant, we're working toward making the minor available and achievable for students at all the campuses as well. So some of these new courses are also being taught on the Commonwealth campuses through the Digital Learning Cooperative. So tell your students it's new. We need help spreading the word. Word of mouth is important for students to find out that it's there. Another really crucial aspect of the program is our internships. So we offer paid and for credit internships to students both during the summer as well as during the school year. And these are the students that you would see working on the farm, really maintaining the farm day to day. So they do the hard labor of farming. They are the ones who maintain this classroom for everyone else. And then obviously they learn a lot along the way as well, and gain skills, not just in production, but they help plan events, they lead tours, they host volunteers. So they're gaining many other skills through those experiences as well. Transitioning now to the Rooted in Community piece, we partner with a lot of community groups and also host a lot of events each year in a typical year. This year, obviously not as many, but hoping to renew that soon. But one example that I'll share that COVID has made it still not possible this year, but something we do with the Master Gardeners in most years, non-COVID years, is we grow out some extra pepper and tomato seedlings alongside our farm plants and work with them, the Master Gardeners, then to distribute those seedlings through food pantries and food banks across Center County so that families experiencing food insecurity have access to fresh, healthy seedlings to do their own home gardening and produce their own fresh garden veggies. So projects like that are a really great way for students to get to know community partners and understand what their mission is and how they operate, and then directly give back to the community through those partnerships. Another big aspect I mentioned of partnerships or of community building is events. We've had to go virtual this year, but we have had good success. Kim actually was one of our guest presenters and did a hands-on workshop on turning upcycling a t-shirt into a grocery bag. And then this flyer here is another one that we had this spring that was really popular, making beeswax wraps as an alternative to plastic food wrap. And then we support a lot of service, both from Penn State and around the community, people looking to maybe bring their kids and instill a sense of service for them, or classes or different Greek life, or sporting groups around campus often are looking for service opportunities and or like team building times together to serve together. So we serve as a space for that. Seeing these photos makes me look forward to a post-COVID reality where we can, it's great to grow peppers, but I love seeing these students cropping up in the field too. So hopefully we'll be back to that someday soon here. Another key component of community is our Student Farm Club. So I'm the advisor for Student Farm Club, and this is a really wonderful group of students who advocate for the farm and help make sure that it remains really student-centered. But they do a lot of other projects and activities as well. This is just a list of some of the project teams that they've had in the last year or two, focusing on a broad range of those sustainable development goals and different aspects of food and agriculture. So some of them don't ever really work on the farm, but they really care about sustainability and they really care about food systems. And so they may work on some of these other components that sometimes do still interface with the farm. For example, the youth education team, pre-COVID, they hosted the entire 5th grade class from Park Forest Elementary and planned and ran tours for those students. It was a science class and they were talking about integrated pest management. And so all those kids got to come out and see pests live and in action on the farm. And so it was our students who planned all of the teaching components of that and then led those 5th grade students. I do also want to just make a quick plug for the Lions Pantry. I'm also co-advisor for this student organization. This is our student food pantry on campus, and it has become a really crucial part, I would say, of campus to help students who are experiencing food insecurity at some point in the year often. And it can be tough to make ends meet. And the pantry is here for any student, all students, no questions asked, to help them bridge those gaps and make sure that they're able to eat and eat well. And I am excited to say we're working on some pretty big renovations of the pantry this summer that will enable us, if all goes on schedule, will enable us to have refrigeration and freezer space come fall so that we can diversify the range of what we offer and continue sending more produce from the farm directly into the pantry as well. Thinking about the farm to campus piece a little more, just a couple quick slides on that. So I mentioned we do sell the bulk of our produce to campus dining. We also run a campus supported agriculture program, which is open to faculty, staff, and students on campus. With COVID, it didn't happen last year. We're in process of getting it restarted to hopefully start in June this year. We did just get approval today, the students did, for their plant sale. So order your plants now because you have 1 week, and then curbside pickup is next Friday. So it's great to see some of that starting to open back up again, especially because gardening has become so popular during COVID. I kind of mentioned that idea of grown by the students for the students already, but this just kind of lists out a little bit of the outlets that we sell produce to. And then one last aspect of the farm that we do build in is oftentimes our students who have a research idea and maybe need to complete a thesis or something where it's student-led, student-driven research. So we're able to host some students, usually 1 or 2 students each year, looking to complete some kind of research project. So this photo here was a plant science major. He was studying compost tea in tomato plants. And so this is him out spraying one morning. But we also have hosted students for their capstones in like nutrition, where maybe they're surveying our CSA customers to assess vegetable consumption and behavior change around cooking. So it's not necessarily just field-based research. There's a lot of different aspects that students work on. I'm going to skip through this one. This is just a slide kind of sharing some of our accomplishments over the years. I'll maybe highlight just one, and that is that we were voted as class gift of 2018. And I highlight that because I think that's a great, marker of student support of the program, that students run it and eat the food, and, it's really student-centered from start to end. So the fact that students then voted for it to be recognized as their class gift in 2018, I think helps advance and solidify that aspect of the student-centered nature of the program. And then last slide, just some highlights. Students do learn how to garden. They learn how to grow tomatoes properly and how to anticipate pests and things like that. But I think even more importantly, they're learning professional communication skills. They're learning program management skills, things like fundraising, grant writing, event planning, volunteer management, a lot of broad systems thinking and sustainability, and then crucial life skills like how do you cook using raw vegetables, and how do you eat healthy on a budget, things like that. So those are all, regardless of where our students go in life, what careers they're in, or what life choices they make, these are skills that can serve them well across the spectrum. And that is it for slides. I don't know how I did time-wise. Oh, I did well. We have time to talk. Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for listening. And I'm happy to answer questions or dialogue about anything.
There she is. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, thank you both. That was interesting to see. I wish I had seen it 2 years ago when I first got here. It would have been nice to know.
Well, we're still here and now we're bigger. So
Yeah,
you're
that's
still
great.
welcome to get involved.
Thanks. I wish I was staying.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
Yeah, it's the end of my term here, but it's so nice to see. I'm just like flabbergasted that it was only 2016 that this is happening. It seems like an essential part of Penn State. Like I can't imagine how this wouldn't be a part of the educational programming. So I don't get it. It just seems fundamental to me.
Wow, it was a lot of work. How about it, Leslie?
Yeah, it was. I think
Still
that
is.
the piece that was the most challenging to navigate was the idea that it really would be students doing the work. I
Mhm.
think administrators were concerned that, farms can be dangerous. So will students be safe, or, will things be a giant mess if students are in charge?
Mhm.
So thankfully, through the pilot, we were able to demonstrate that students do indeed rise to the challenge and take tremendous pride in that farm.
Mhm. Yeah.
And also selling the idea that it is not just for agricultural production and ag outreach, but where I was really interested in is the outreach of the program into the community, how it could be a pedagogical platform. And that's a hard sell too sometimes, because they think, oh, what are they going to do out there? This is how it's a food thing. How are you going to use that to teach art? Or how are you going to use it to teach, I don't know, sociology or whatever it is, or
Mhm.
sustainability, really all the goals. So I think that was hard to sell too. I remember sitting in on brainstorm sessions with you, Leslie, on how she could, use the farm as an outdoor classroom. And I remember some of the comments were like pushback on her too. Like, they want her to just focus on research and not be so outreach. Some people did. And so I remember a lot of those early conversations of her being very adamant and an advocate to say for the students, no, they can do both. It can be all these things. And that was really a buy-in for me.
Yeah, it was nice to see the image of the dye farm in full bloom and how nice that looks.
I'm missing it.
Yeah,
We're on our second year of COVID, and
yeah, it's inspiring because I mean, as I would say, as an artist that went to school in the city and lived most of my life in the city, I mean, I've always had an interest in, obviously art making, connection to nature, understanding nature better. But being in the city, I have so little exposure to actually growing things because I never had a place to grow anything. So having that exposure just seems amazing for art students to be able to have that kind of cross collaboration. That sets somebody on a much different path from the beginning, I think. So that's really exciting to see, and just like the thought of where that leads in the future is really amazing too.
Yeah, there certainly is more interest in and carving out spaces for urban gardens and the like. So maybe dye gardens in urban centers could be the next wave after food, to
Yeah.
start carving out pockets of space. Because you really don't need a lot of area. I mean, those marigolds that Kim showed in that photo, they're very prolific. And if you keep up on picking the flower heads, the plant keeps producing more.
Mhm.
So it doesn't, yeah, if you can find even just a small space.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know land is at a premium in urban areas, but if there's community gardens and things, I could see an art group maybe renting a community garden plot just to grow materials.
Yeah, there's definitely that available. But I think that, you know, it's funny because it seems like the education process, it's just everyone that I know that does that in the city, it's like something they learned outside of school. And so it's still not sort of integrated, I think.
You're
Yeah,
right.
that's
And
point.
that's one of the things I was so excited about is, what from being a first generation college student here, it's one thing Penn State does well usually is ag, right? So using it to get out and be not just local, but global and be part of a larger conversation is something I'm very passionate about.
Mhm.
Nicole, that is a good point though too, that we're graduating students who do get to learn how to grow some plants as part of their time at Penn State. And hopefully in a very practical way. I mean, to the extent that there are students whose career paths will continue in food systems and agriculture, then having that weave that into their formal curriculum is important. But to just have open volunteer days and the like, where any student can come and get some exposure and some experience in that, I think is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, it's a big difference because I grew up, my family on both sides of my family were gardeners, and on one side they were pretty extensive, like they grew a lot of things. So I grew up around it. Um, but then when I went to school myself, it just was not anywhere near part of the art curriculum. And so I was always interested in it, but there was no overlap of that kind of discussion of growing or farming or food systems or anything connected in that way. So it does seem like the more people have the exposure to it, the easier it is to figure out how to bring that into like a personal practice. And so I think providing that exposure just seems really invaluable. I can imagine that students who didn't have that growing up, that maybe grew up in cities, it's even like harder to, take that step in, so that like having that in school is also really important.
I think that's why it's so hard not to be in the situation we're in with COVID, because normally, if we're in non-COVID times, Leslie and the Student Farm Club host so many events, and our students feel comfortable to go to it, and they have food trucks and live music, and it's they can just participate and lay back and enjoy. But then I think it gets them going, and they see that, oh, this is, maybe I could take a course in here and not feel like a fish out of water, because they're so accommodating and they're so hospitable. And that's where I feel the farm as a community really, we're really missing that in our COVID times. And had you been here then, you would have been out there at the farm, because you would have wanted to go. And we don't have that now, and I miss that. I miss those events.
Yeah, and word of mouth is so important for new students to be aware of it. So it kind of does feel like we missed a year of incoming students who we now need to catch them up, and next year's incoming students too.
Mhm. It seems like there's so much potential for expansion with collaboration with the art department in my mind, thinking about Kim's class, which is I don't know, Kim, the full range of what you cover, but it seems like a lot of it is based on dyeing the fabric. But there's also I use it primarily for painting, so just bringing that into painting practice, and also fibers, just materials. So talking about fibers, if there was some expansion of the use of fibers into weaving or however else fibers are brought in. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of potential there for crossover in terms of talking about material studies. So I would like to just keep an eye on that, even though I'm leaving. Like, I would love to see how that develops if it's possible.
Yeah, we started with the dye crops, but really that was just a way in. Long before it was the sustainable studio class, I was actually bringing my gen eds over for direct observation for painting, introduction to painting, plein air painting, and also drawing. And I still like to bring even my figure class over there once in a while if I'm able to. I think it can be for anything. And I'm really interested in those intersections. And I think that the Sustainable Studio was just an opening for a conversation. And I'm glad it's permanent now, but I don't look for it to be like more classes. I'm looking at it more like you think of it in terms of this could be an extension of what we already do, because we don't need necessarily more courses because our trouble with our enrollments and stuff like that. But just if all the faculty start thinking of the farm out there and
Mhm,
just incorporate in what they do, look, think of the richness that we'd have in our curriculum.
mhm, mhm.
I don't know.
I think if, I mean, my opinion about the enrollment is it's just because it's not really commonly known, and I think it's growing across the country. This idea of sustainability, art making, how to overlap that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you're right.
so it does seem like maybe obviously not next year or in the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but it does seem like there is potential for having a larger focus on sustainability and art making, and you wouldn't want to just like expand the courses now, but I think it seems like Penn State is in such a great position to be hosting something like that, like a larger program that is focused on sustainability and art making.
I think what there is opportunity for is to take what could be future curriculum, but break it down into individual, like one-off workshops or, mini seminars, market it to students and build excitement that way.
Mhm.
And then hopefully you end up having students saying, wow, I loved that 3 workshop mini series you just did. Is there a whole course in this? And
Right,
then they will, yes, there is. in
right,
fact.
yeah, yeah,
That's a really good point.
uh-huh. Yeah, I've been talking to Kim, you might know her, Andrea Farrick. She's an agroforester. She's been sort of involved with S3A.
I've heard of her.
And she's been really instrumental in trying to get hemp production off the ground in Pennsylvania. I guess everything closed down pretty much with regulations against hemp, and they have now just brought in the proper machinery for sort of processing the hemp. And so, to me, things like that, where there's a connection between the the fibers being grown, that moving through like processing mills, how that would be implemented or used in art making. That's so interesting. It seems like there's just been kind of a disconnect, obviously with manufacturing shipped out of local environments, but in the future it seems like we have to bring it back. Like we have to be able to make the things we need or use locally. And it seems like it also goes along with the whole fiber shed movement of kind of trying to source your materials within 150-mile radius, of where you are. And so I feel like there's just, so much potential for growth in that, just because of, the need for sustainability in general. So
It's funny, Leslie and I attended a convention, and we didn't even know we didn't go together. And it ended up that we both were talking to this guy who was interested in growing linen on, and anyhow, we were all three from Penn State.
uh-huh.
So it is something, that I think too, that it has a rich future in, but it's also very laborious and a whole nother, section for her to manage as well. I mean, you can talk yourself, but it's just always amazing to me that anywhere I am out in the world, there's almost always some Penn State person there. Or if I Google something and Penn State is leading the research on this journal article, I just I'm looking up or whatever. So I feel really thankful to be here. And I think you're right, Nicole. I don't think we don't sell ourselves enough on that. I don't think.
Yeah, like this workshop, this lecture was not sold enough.
Yeah.
Obviously. I think the whole symposium, you know, it's difficult to do this in the last week of school and online, and
Right.
to have 6 talks going on at the same time is really a difficult task that
Yes.
they've taken
Thank
on.
you so much for supporting us.
Well, I'm supposed to be in other meetings too, and I was like, I really want to see this.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well,
Where,
thank yeah.
where are you headed next?
I don't know. I'm waiting to hear back from 3 different jobs, so I have my fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
I just wanted to share this last screen just to, if you're around tomorrow. Tomorrow we're talking about the same time with Helen of the die cart. It was
Oh
another,
yeah, I want to see this.
the solar die cart. This was another brainchild from a collaboration with the farm, because as Leslie mentioned, there was no electricity out there. So every time I would be like, oh gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could just set up out here and die? But we couldn't have an open fire and all this. So we collaborated with the Capstone students and for one of their projects. And we're going to present this tomorrow. And in keeping with Leslie's kind of vision of having a off the grid solar style outdoor classroom out there, we thought this would be a good addition.
Yeah, so great. I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
What time is that? It's at 11,
At the
Kim?
same time, yep, at 11. And it's a shame because I think that's when our keynotes are talking, right? This time frame. But everything's recorded. So even if you can't come, go back and have a look at it if you're
Okay.
interested.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for
Yeah,
that.
thank you for
Great to
everything.
see
You.
Yep.
Nice to meet you, Nicole.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Leslie.